Hello, my name is Finbar Sheehy. I'm Director of Academic Programs here in Pharma. I'd like to give you a very quick overview of a new program that we have on offer this year. It's a higher certificate in Science in Process Digitisation. And it also encompasses two minor awards. One is a certificate in Operational Excellence for Digitisation, and one is a certificate in Information Technology for Digitisation. The context of this program is an area that you may have heard of recently in the whole area of digital transformation. And if you look at the evolution of industry over the last several hundred years, people will describe the fact that we have come through a series of industrial revolutions. And a revolution is a significant change. And what we're talking about here is a significant change in industry and how people work and how work gets done. Back in the 18th century, there was a significant change with the introduction of steam, for example. In the 19th century, there was mass production. Think of Henry Ford, for example. Think of mass production in cars. In the 20th century, there was a significant amount of automation, the use of electronics, the use of information technology. And today we're in what people refer to as the fourth industrial revolution, which is really the integration of production, the integration of cloud technology, integration of big data. And where we see that is, if you look at the world around us, we're all connected. Whether we consider that good or bad, but our mobile phone, our television, everything around us is connected. Medical devices, for example, our cars. And if you think about where things are going to go in the future, it's going to become more and more being the case. So there's going to be an abundance of data. Things are going to be connected together. So there's going to be an awful lot more sharing of information, for example. In the workplace, the same thing will happen. Let's say, for example, you're working as an operator in a manufacturing facility, and your job currently today is operating a piece of equipment. So your whole realm of work is really around that piece of equipment. You're responsible for making a product. You're responsible for moving the materials. You're responsible for maintaining that piece of equipment. But primarily, you're just responsible for that piece of equipment, just that on its own. Well, in the future, that'll change. In the future, what will happen is more than likely, you won't be just making something or moving something. What you'll be doing is you'll be taking that information, and what you'll be doing is you'll be sharing that information for other people around the facility or other people around the world. You might be sharing or monitoring information in another site, for example. So your facility may have multiple sites around the world. You might be remotely looking at that information and actually controlling that process remotely as well. You might be looking at the quality performance of the product. You might be predicting when you're going to do maintenance, for example. So the role in future will change. It won't be just operating a single piece of equipment. The information you use, the data you collect, for example, will be used in lots of other places. And that whole concept is a concept called digital transformation. It's the use of technology to transform what you might consider a traditional process or a non-electronic process. Some people will refer to it as an analog process. And you're using that to share information and connect things together. And that whole process is made up of three different parts. And I think, even if you look at what's happened over the last year and a half, more and more organizations have tried to digitize what they're doing. They've tried to put things online. They've tried to connect things, for example. And the whole concept of digital transformation is really made up of three different elements. There's three parts. At its most basic level, there's a thing called digitisation. Digitisation is where you just take information that you may have written in a logbook previously. And now what you're doing is you're putting it into some sort of electronic form. So rather than writing the information in a logbook, you're now putting it into a spreadsheet. And you might be doing an awful lot more than that, but you're now storing it online, for example. The next part is the concept called digitalization. So what you now do is you take that information that you've stored online somewhere, and now what you're doing is you're starting to analyze that information. And you're starting to look for trends. And you're starting to see, can I make that process better? Can I make it more efficient, for example? And then what you have is a concept called transformation. And transformation is really at a business level. You're looking at the higher picture and you're trying to figure out, how do we make a significant improvement to the business itself? Or in fact, is there a different business we need to be in altogether? So you can see there's 3 different elements to it. Now, when you look at the 3 different elements and you look at the people involved, what it does is it demands different skills on people for the future. Up at the transformation level, what it's trying to do is it's trying to say, well, if you're leading a business, you now need to understand the bigger picture, and you might need to decide, what business am I going to be in the future? At the digitalization, you might be an engineer, you might be a project manager, you might be a data scientist, and you're looking at the data to try and improve a process. Or if you're at the digitization stage, maybe you're an operator, maybe you're a technician working in an organization, manufacturing, or it could be support. Your role is going to change as well, because it's going to move away from this idea of physically making something and moving something to a higher level expectation. And the programs we're talking about here, the certificate and the minor programs, which I'll mention in a second, are designed for really people at the operator, at the technician level. They're really designed for a mature learner. Ideally, they're designed for somebody who already has experience, but not absolutely necessary. But ideally, somebody who's worked in manufacturing or some sort of a support service before. Maybe you're trying to find work in that industry at the moment. And this program and the programs we look at aren't specific to any one industry. So they could apply to food, they could apply to pharma, they could apply to automation, for example. So anybody coming with experience in any one of those areas would be a typical participant in this program. Somebody who's really trying to understand the bigger picture. Somebody who's now required to retrain to either hold on to the job they have or progress into future roles in the future. They need to understand the concept of process. They need to understand that bigger picture. They need to understand data. They need to understand technology, and they also need to understand something about the organization as well. So the obvious question is, what kind of a job would I get if I went on a course like this? Well, in some cases, what you're doing is you're almost actually trying to hold on to the job that you currently have. Because like I said earlier on, the role may move from just making something and moving something to a role of monitoring and improving something. You might still be working in the same organization, but because that organization has implemented digital technologies, the role now becomes a role maybe of looking at the process and monitoring the process and trying to look at trends, for example. Are things moving out of control? Are things stable, for example? So part of the role would be now that you understand data. Doesn't mean to say that you become a data scientist, but you can understand data and you can understand basic trends. You can look at the ideas of process improvement, Lean Six Sigma, for example, or fundamental skills these days. And you can look at things like predictive maintenance and how do you integrate new technologies. So the role becomes more of a thinking role, a cerebral type of a role, rather than a role of moving and making something. So go back to the graphic I talked about earlier on about, what are some of the skills that the person now needs in this kind of an environment? Even though I still might be working in this one area, and maybe I'm still operating that piece of equipment, what now needs to happen is there's a range of new skills that I need. Maybe now what I need to understand is I need to understand the bigger picture. I need to understand the entire enterprise. I can't just focus on my piece of equipment anymore. I need to understand, where does my role fit in the bigger enterprise. I need to understand the concept of supply chain, and again look at what's happened in the last year and how much supply chain has been disrupted. So I need to understand that concept, and I need to understand the concept of operations management. So everything from understanding demand, supply, basic operation of a manufacturing or a support facility. I need to understand basic projects. So if I'm now going to be managing projects, even though they might be small projects, I need to understand the basic principles of doing that. Now what I need to do is I need to understand information technology and automation, because a large part of what I'm doing and the equipment around me is going to be more advanced. It's going to be connected, for example. So I need to understand things like computer architecture, and I might even need to understand the basics of fundamental programming, because I might be need to program a piece of equipment, for example. I then need to understand the fundamentals of data. So I collect this data, and how do I visualize it? How do I present it in a way that makes sense to people? And then how do I use concepts like operational excellence, Lean, Six Sigma, for example, to drive improvements based on the data that I have collected? And also I need to look at digital communication. How do I communicate that information in a succinct way in a digital environment? But also I need to improve my math skills. And that's not to frighten the life out of people, because sometimes people shy away from maths. But it is important to understand the fundamentals of maths and statistics, for example. And also there's a range of other transversal skills that we'll mention in a moment. So really what we're saying in the new role, the new operator of the future, these are the fundamental skills that are needed, even though you might still be working in the same organization. So the program that we've put together focuses on those core skills. Like I said earlier on, the overall program is a level 6 in science in process digitization. It's made up of 120 credits. And that program is designed such that you can do it in several parts. It's made up of 2 embedded awards. So an embedded award is effectively a award within an award. And one of those is a level 6 in operational excellence for digitization. And the other one is a level 6 in information technology for digitization. Now, when you look at this program on Springboard, what you're actually going to see is you're going to see the both embedded awards. So you're going to see the level 6 cert in operational excellence, or you're going to see the level 6 cert in information technology. And the reason we do that is because of Springboard funding, you can't get funding for programs that run more than a year. So we've designed these programs such that they are modular. So you could do any one of these programs within a year. And obviously if you had funding approval, potentially that would be a way to do it. When you combine each one of those embedded awards, or you do all of those skills, you combine that with a capstone project to get the overall full level 6 120 credits. If you want to enter the programs, either one of the level 6 embedded awards, what you need is you need a H7 or O6 in 5 Leaving Cert subjects, one of which must be maths. What happens if I haven't done maths? What happens if I haven't done maths and it's been so long ago that I can't find my Leaving Cert? Well, not to panic. There's a bridging program there that you can use. And a bridging program is basically a refresher program that you can use. It's free, it's online, and you can develop your math skills, and we will provide support to do that. And then at the end, you do a maths examination. And if you pass that, you can use that as a route to get into the program. So you obviously you don't have to go back and do your Leaving Cert maths or anything like that. So there is a bridging program there to help you to do that. You do obviously have to pass that exam before you can get access to the program. In terms of the logistics of the program, each program will run 2 evenings per week, typically 6:30 to 9:30. That will be online. And then 2 Saturdays per month, usually 10 o'clock to 4 o'clock, which will be in class. Obviously, given the COVID restrictions, if they're still in place, that in class may be online, but we'll give you more detail of that. The assumption at the moment is that would be in class. And just very briefly, to just get a sense of what the modules actually are. So if you did the level 6 in operational excellence, for example, you would do a fundamentals of maths and stats. You would do a transversal skills module. You would do a module on operational excellence and supply chain. You do a module in Lean and Six Sigma. Then you look at trends in supply chain, so what's happened over the last few years. Do a module on project management and do a module on digital communications. You can see those modules run over 3 semesters. So we run from September right up to August. So first semester is September to June approximately. Second semester would be February to May. And the next semester would be June to August. So we run over the summer. Again, it's important to be aware of that. If you did the other program, if you decided to do the level 6 certificate in information technology, and you could do either one of them first. You can do the OPEX first, or you could do this one first. You can see the fundamentals of maths and stats or transversal skills are common to both programs. You would do information or introduction to programming. You would do computer architecture, information technology, programming applications, industrial stats, data analysis and visualization. Again, that runs over the 3 semesters. Both programs run concurrently. They both start and end at the same time. If you want to finish off and get the full 120 credits, what you would do is, as part of your second program, you would do a project as well. That project is a culmination of all of the learning outcomes, and what you would do is you would come up with some sort of a conceptual digitization of a process. And that would incorporate process mapping, data architectures, data collection, data analysis, and you would present that in the same way maybe if you were presenting a yellow belt or green belt program, if you were looking at Lean and Six Sigma. The options in terms of progression, you have three options really. In fact, you probably have multiples, but if you look at it within InnoPharma, there's a few options. One, if you wanted to find a suitable level 7 program, which would then bring you on to a level 8 program, that would give you the option maybe of looking at pharmaceutical sciences. And the first certificate, remember I said here, is not specific to any one industry. So you could be working in food, you could be working in pharma, you could be working in medical device, you could be working in automation, for example. And the level 6 will give you skills to enhance your knowledge in those areas. But let's say, for example, you wanted to move into the pharmaceutical industry. This would be a progression option if you wanted to do that to a level 8. First option, like I said, is you could look at suitable level 7 programs and then progress on to a level 8 program that we have in terms of pharmaceutical and medical device operations. You could then look at another option if you wanted to focus more on operations. Maybe you want to become a supervisor. You could do a level 7 BA or a level 8 BA that we offer. Or what you could do is, if you want to focus more in terms of automation in your career, we're in the process of starting to develop a level 7 and a level 8 BSc in digitalization. Remember the one in the middle, which would focus in terms of automation. So any one of these are options, or obviously there are other options through other institutes as well. The last thing is just to say that as part of these programs, we put a lot of focus on career guidance. We put a lot of focus on helping individuals develop their CVs, irrespective of if they're working or not. If they want to develop their lecture or network, if they want to develop their interview skills, if they want support in terms of finding roles, that's an important part of what we do. And we also focus on these transversal skills that I mentioned earlier on. And what I mean by transversal skills, so these are core skills that are really important in any area of life that you focus on these days. The ability to be able to make valid judgments, the ability to look at data and make sense of it is really important. The ability to be adaptable and agile. Again, look at what's happened over the last year and a half. The more agile you are, the more adaptable you are, the more likely you are to be successful. To take risks and to be resilient, for example, to keep at things. Empathy is important because what we're doing is we're implementing digital transformation. So what impact does that have on people? You need to be able to tell stories with data. You need to be optimistic. You need to be able to make a contribution. And all of those things, you need to be self-aware as well. So you need to focus on those. So those are skills that are incorporated into the overall program as well. So hopefully that gives you a quick overview in terms of the program. The higher program is the level 6 higher certificate in science. If you come to us to a Springboard, what you are going to see is you're going to see a certificate in operational excellence for digitization or a certificate in information technology. You have the option of doing either one of those first and then potentially progressing onto the other one. If you want to find out any more about the programs, give us a shout. You'll find more details on innopharmaeducation.com. So hopefully that gives you a very quick overview of the program, and hopefully you found that of use, and hopefully we might meet up at some stage, and we wish you the best of luck in your future education and your future career.